Hello, everyone. This is me, Helen V. Hicks, licensed professional counselor, parent coach, author, podcaster, and mother of five. Um, I was here before, and for whatever reason, my laptop decided that it did not know what Wi-Fi was anymore. And so it had some issues, some technical difficulties, and I got cut off. So I am taking this second recording to replace the first one. So if you were with me earlier and you got halfway through the webinar, I'm here again to just go ahead and start fresh and record the whole webinar over again. My apologies. I'm so sorry that I had technical difficulties, completely unexpected. But I'm going to jump in. If you were here earlier and you want to come back in like 15 minutes, I should be where I was when I got cut off before. But all right. So this is Mastering Discipline with Your Child. I introduced myself, so let's get started. So as I stated before, discipline is a necessary part of parenting. Your job, your responsibilities as a parent is to protect, provide, and guide. And discipline is a part of guiding your child because we all live in societies. And these societies have rules and regulations by which they expect us all to abide by. And so part of guiding your child is teaching your child what this society is going to expect of them as they come of age. So no one is born knowing exactly how to behave. No one is born knowing social skills and rules of engagement and manners and things of that part. So that's part of your job as the parent, is to teach your child those things. And sometimes they can be hard lessons because children are very focused on themselves and what they want to do, what works for them in that moment. And they're not really thinking about what is expected of them. They're just thinking about them in that moment. So discipline is necessary to help guide them to learn how to engage and conduct themselves appropriately. There's also other very positive aspects of discipline because you're teaching your child self-control, you're teaching your child self-responsibility. It's a sense of empowerment, things that I'll touch on later. Okay, so why is disciplining your child so difficult? It's because it's triggering, and it can be triggering for any one of these reasons listed here. Like, first, it could remind you of your experiences as a child growing up. Whatever disciplinary measures that your parents may have engaged in, whether it was a lot, is a little, it's positive, it's negative, whatever it is. So when you're placed back in that situation of inappropriate behavior and discipline, may remind you of your experiences and cause you to get into a state of anxiety or other emotional reactions that prevent you from showing up in a healthy way for your child. The second thing is, as part of human nature, we always repeat what we've been exposed to, regardless of if it's positive or negative. We repeat what we know. So when you are engaging in some type of disciplinary action with your child, you may automatically jump into patterns of behavior that your parents engaged in with you, and they could be positive, they could be negative. You may like them, you may not like them. And of course, you are going to have your own emotional reaction to the fact that you have repeated patterns of behavior. The third one is you may internalize your child's behavior as you not being a good parent. So this happens a lot because from the time your child is born, much of society is telling you that you have to control your child. You have to make sure that your child does this and doesn't do that, and acts this way and doesn't act that way. So when your child is not behaving as expected, it becomes very easy for parents to internalize this. And we go to the next part, in which parents start to view themselves as they failed. If you interpret your job as the parent to make your child happy, and here your child is having a tantrum in the middle of the store, obviously your child isn't happy. And of course, you feel like you failed because you weren't able to make your child happy in that moment. So these are things that you have to take into consideration as you move forward and you engage with self-discipline. The last part is, experiencing a range of emotions. So as these other things are happening for you, as you're being reminded of your past, as you may be engaging in dysfunctional behavior, if you may be internalizing your child's behavior or viewing yourself as a failure, any of these things or all of these things taking place, and you may feel angry, you may feel hurt, you may feel disappointed, you may feel let down. Like all these different things can trigger emotions that now put you in a heightened emotional state. And that heightened emotional state prevents you from being able to think clearly and to problem solve appropriately. So, these are all the reasons why disciplining your child is so difficult. But I have an answer for you that helps you to remove a lot of this and to remain calm. It's what I call the CCRR method. So CCRR stands for choice, consequence, reward, reinforce. You remember this, you implement it, and you will help yourself stay calm. You will have a focus. So, whenever your child begins to act up, all you need to remember is CCRR, engage in the steps. You stay calm, you redirect your child appropriately. No one is getting hurt, there's no dysfunctional behavior, and we can eliminate a lot of those other processes that may be happening for you. Okay. So, how does this work? The first thing is you have to set a limit. Okay. Then you present your child with choices. It should be limited to two. Identify the consequence, identify the reward, and reinforce. So let's get into a little bit more detail. So, first step is set the limit. And I want you to keep it quick, direct, and simple. So, what do I mean? You can set a limit simply by saying, stop, don't do that, no. It doesn't have to be long, and I really don't want parents to put a lot of effort and attention into just setting a limit. Keep it quick. Let's move on. It's the CCRR part that is the most important and the most significant when it comes to shaping and redirecting your child's behavior. So, first thing is, why are limits necessary? Because I know there are people out there who have issues with being able to say no to their child. And I don't know all of their history, but for some people, I do know that they grew up with a lot of limits. And so now they have their own stuff that's being triggered when it comes to setting limits for their child. And maybe someone else told them that, oh, setting limits for your child, it damages their self-esteem, it makes them feel bad, like all these other things. But setting limits is extremely helpful for your child. If you do not set limits for your child, what you get is Veruca Salt. Any of you who have watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you are familiar with this character. She is spoiled, she is self centered, she's entitled, she has no patience, she's impulsive. Like there's a lot of characterological issues with her that I'm sure a lot of you do not want to repeat. You do not want to have a Veruca Salt in your home. So when you set limits, you actually help your child to increase their own sense of self responsibility. Not just that, but it decreases impulsivity, it increases their patience, their ability to delay gratification. So, if you're not familiar with that phrase, delayed gratification, that is the ability to engage in a task now but not receive a reward or a payout for that task until later. Now, how much later can vary. When you're going to school, whether it's high school, whether it's college, it's graduate school, that's delaying gratification for years. Or it could be simply having a job and having to delay gratification for 2, 3, or sometimes even 4 weeks before you get a paycheck. So, delayed gratification is absolutely a part of adult life that you need to prepare your children for because that's part of your job to protect, provide, and guide. And as I just said, guidance. So, presenting choices is very important that the choice that you present is appropriate for your child. Children should not be able to make every single choice that is associated with your daily living. Okay? If you are struggling with understanding what choices to present to your child, when your child should be able to make these choices, please check out my webinar that is Parent versus Friend, When to Be Which. That'll give you a lot more guidance in this particular area. So the choices that you present for your child need to be appropriate. So I want you to think in terms of the only thing any of us can control is ourselves. So therefore, the choices that you present to your child should be in regards to your child controlling himself. All right. And when you present these choices, you should present them in terms of you can either continue doing A, which is going to be the undesired behavior and receive a consequence, or you can do B, which is your desired behavior, and be specific. It's very important that you're specific in terms of what you want your child to do and earn a reward. Your choice, right? So, why is it necessary to present a choice? It's necessary to present a choice because choices are a symbol of love and trust versus trying to control, it represents fear. And if you truly, truly, truly want a loving relationship with your child, then this is where it's going to start. You have to present them with loving options, which is, hey, I trust you enough to make the right decision. Even if you don't make that decision right now in this minute, I trust that eventually you will get there and you will learn and you will grow. Okay. When you start to control, your child is going to fight against that control, and that introduces more power struggles. It introduces a lot more yelling, screaming, and a lot of the things that people really don't like about parenting. The next thing is when you present choices, this releases you from being the bad guy because this is probably the number one thing I hear from a lot of parents. Ah, I don't want to be the person who's always bringing down the hammer. I'm always the one who says no. I'm always the one who's telling them, don't do this, don't do that. So this releases you from that because if your child earns a consequence, then you can simply say, but that's what you chose. Conversely, if your child chooses to engage in the desired behavior and your child earns a reward, now your child has a sense of empowerment. And that's the very last one here that kind of got cut off at the bottom. Um, and then in between that is it promotes self responsibility in your children. Now they're not just going along for the ride, they are participating in what they are experiencing in their own lives. It's not just that they are your victims. They're doing whatever it is you tell them to do, you make them do, you drag them along to do, but they are participating in this. Okay. Next is we're going to the second C, which is consequence. So you're going to present the choice to your child, and you are going to give your child up to 2 minutes to choose which behavior they want to engage in. Now, depending on your circumstance, 2 minutes can be a long period of time. So if you feel like you need to shorten that, then absolutely. But please remember to give your child a chance to actually choose. After 2 minutes, you get to pick, which typically that means the child is going to get a consequence because your child did not successfully choose to engage in the desired behavior. So step number one is keep it simple. I left off the last S. I don't want to name call or do anything like that. So keep it simple. Less is definitely more. Giving huge consequences to children actually causes them to feel defeated. They feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this. I'm never going to get to the end of this. I should just give up. So, an example is if you give your child 30 days of, restriction from screen time or things of that nature, well, that's 30 days. One, your child has 30 days to adapt, and children adapt very quickly. So the next time you go to take away screen time, your child will already have a plan as to how they're going to manage that, and they're going to be fine, and therefore your consequence is going to be ineffective. So that's the first thing. If you have big consequences, they become ineffective very quickly. The next thing is over those 30 days, your child kind of feels like any positive behavior that they engage in is a moot point. It's like they're not going to get anything different. They're not going to earn anything back. So why am I even trying to be good? Why am I even trying to make up for this? Because, hey, I'm done for the next 30 days. So it becomes very defeating for children to have long consequences. So you want to keep them engaged. You want to keep them invested. So keep the consequences short. The next thing is they need to be immediate and easy to implement because reinforcement is huge. All of this falls apart if you're not reinforcing and following through with what you said. So, therefore, you need to keep the consequences to something simple and easy for you. And keep in mind, I don't want you punishing yourself. I have definitely worked with parents who have done that they have issued consequences to their children that also punish them. Now it means they can't go out. They can't do things. They can't engage in their favorite, activities. So I do not want you punishing yourself. So be sure, keep it simple. It's easy to reinforce. It happens immediate because the choice and what happens as a result of the choice need to be paired together immediately. Otherwise, this does not work. If your child engaged in a behavior at 10 a.m., but you are not reinforcing whatever the reward or consequence is until 8 p.m., this is way too much time, and that is less effective than if at 10 a.m. when this behavior took place and you engaged in CCRR, and by 10:15 your child has received the consequence or the reward, whichever one is necessary to reinforce. That is far more effective than having these huge time spans in between. So keep it simple, keep it immediate, and this is going to help everybody. And it also allows your child to have a sense of redemption. Like, hey, yeah, I messed up, but I'm not done for the rest of the day. This is only going to last 30 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it is. But they have a sense of being able to redeem themselves and they become invested in, ooh, let me try again. Let me try to engage in the right behavior. Let me try to make better choices. This keeps your child invested in this process. Another thing that I want to mention is if there are natural consequences to whatever your child's behavior is, you do not need to add another consequence. So, really quick, an example of this is if your child decides, I don't like that dinner, I don't want to eat it, then a natural consequence could be, okay, well, then I guess you're going to be hungry. Or you can have leftovers in the fridge, but nobody is making something new. So that is a natural consequence. Like, okay, there you go. That's what you get then. So, a couple of guidelines that I have for parents in terms of consequences. One is you must avoid power struggles at all costs. The CCRR method is about removing power struggles because a power struggle is anytime you are trying to make your child do something. This is not about making your child do something, because again, that's about control, and control iterates fear. And if you watched my other webinar in regards to love in the gray, you understand that fear and love are opposing forces. They cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So if you are engaging in controlling behavior that is rooted in fear, your child is not feeling loved. Hence, we go all the way back to the beginning of this. This is why we provide choices, because choices are rooted in love. You are making sure that your actions, your interactions with your child are always abound in love and not fear. Okay. So, other guidelines. Freedom comes at the cost of responsibility. So when you're thinking about what's an appropriate consequence, think of all those privileges, all those freedoms that your child may have. Those come at the cost of responsible behavior. If your child cannot or refuses to engage in responsible behavior, then guess what? You are not eligible for certain freedoms. This makes for a very easy to implement consequence. Next piece of advice I give you is time wasted equals time owed. So if you're getting ready in the morning and your child is dragging her feet and she is hesitant to pick out an outfit or to get her hair done or whatever it is, and you wind up being 10 minutes late because of your child's issues in that morning, then once you come back home, your child now owes you 10 minutes. And that could be 10 minutes of dusting, 10 minutes of sweeping. It could just be 10 minutes of sitting on the couch without screen time, whatever it may be. So, time wasted equals time owed. This can be a very useful consequence. Now, I know some of you are probably asking, but now we have this huge time gap. If it happened in the morning and it's not being reinforced into the afternoon, I completely understand that. It's just an example I'm throwing out there at you. So sometimes, yes, it can be useful, but I absolutely try to get people to reinforce it in the morning whenever necessary. Okay. The next, rewards are going to work a lot of the same way with consequences. So everything that I just said about consequences, keeping it simple, it's easy and quick to implement. It's easy to sustain. And the next thing that I want to add in regards to rewards, just like you don't want these huge consequences, you don't want huge rewards, because whatever the reward is that you give to your child, it needs to match the amount of effort it actually takes for your child to engage in that behavior. So if you are in the store and your child starts to have a tantrum because he wants something, a reward can be, hey, look, if you can get it together and you can compose yourself, and whether you want to walk next to the cart, you want to sit in the cart, whatever you want to do, if you can get yourself together and show that, self-control, then I will let you pick out one thing. And then your child can hold that one thing that they want throughout the rest of the trip. Or if you don't want them to have the one thing, maybe the child wants candy and you're like, candy's not really an option, then you can give healthy treat options. Like, hey, if you can make a good choice right now, I am willing to allow you to have a healthy treat, and you can hold on to your healthy treat until we pay for it, and then you can enjoy your healthy treat. So it's a small amount of effort for your child to be able to take some deep breaths, get themselves under control, pick themselves off the floor. So being able to match that level of effort, it's important for this to be sustainable. Okay. You don't want to put out these huge rewards of, I'm going to get you a new game system. Like, that's not sustainable. That doesn't match the amount of effort that your child is putting out. Okay. So reinforce. This is where all of this comes together. Like, if you provide choice, consequence, and reward, but then you don't reinforce, then all of this means nothing. You have no trust. Reinforcement is where you're going to build trust, and your child is going to believe that when you say something, you're going to do the something that you say. So the more you build up this trust and this expectancy, then when you are trying to get your child to engage in more strenuous activities, things that may require sustained effort, whether it's, participating in a sport for the whole season, like these require sustained effort. And if you're going to try to support your child through this, your child is going to be less likely to engage in these types of activities if your child feels like you may drop out halfway through it because you're not good at reinforcing. You're not good at sustaining. So this becomes a lesson that your child is learning from you about you. And your child is not going to trust you when you say certain things. And this can cause a lot, a lot of other circumstances and conditions within your parent-child relationship. Okay. So you have to be able to follow through with the chosen consequence or reward. And like I said before, as soon as possible. And I understand there may be circumstances in which you cannot. So as soon as you can when you guys come back together. Also, when it comes to reinforcing, this is not the time to lecture your child. Okay. Reinforce with the consequence or the reward after the consequence or reward has been fulfilled. So if part of the consequence is your child is not able to watch, TV or play a game for 20 minutes, after that consequence has been fulfilled, after the 20 minutes has passed, if you feel it is necessary to explain to your child why their behavior was inappropriate, then you can explain it at that moment after the consequence or reward has been paired. Otherwise, what you wind up doing is you wind up pairing your lecture with the behavior instead of the consequence or reward. So even if your child earned a reward, but instead of immediately getting the reward, your child is getting a lecture, you're actually discouraging your child from engaging in the behavior because the child is going to think, oh gosh, I don't want to lecture. Like, I just want to get my thing and move on. Like, is this really worth it? So you have to be really careful as to what you are actually pairing with the desired behavior, because this is what strengthens that connection. This is what strengthens your child's engagement and your child's desire to continue to make good choices. So, lastly, here is the part that I am not good with. So I'm going to get out of the way. As you can see, this is my QR code for Smart Goals Parenting course. This is a course that I offer 100% online. You can work at your own pace. It is only $47 a month. So I'm not good at sales. I can be 100% honest about that. I am not good at convincing people why they should do certain things that, benefit me. But as you can see, this really is about benefiting you. What I'm good at is telling you the truth. And here's the truth. The truth is there is no other parenting course out there that is as comprehensive as mine. And so what I mean by that is, one, I have the only parenting course that is based on SMART goals, goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. That means you have the basis for repeating a desired outcome. So also with this, my course is comprehensive in the fact that I'm not looking at just getting you, the parent, to engage in set behaviors. I'm also helping you to get your child to also engage in set behaviors. It's not enough for you to be a positive parent or for you to be a respectful parent if you are not getting that reciprocated back to you. So Also, in regards to this, is my course is priced for the audience I hope to reach. So any of you familiar with Birkins, like those bags are like 30, $40,000 a piece. Those are aimed to be, very exclusive and to only have a certain number of people be able to have access to them. And it becomes a status thing, something that you can tell other people about and show off, and you belong to a certain group because you're able to do that. And it's only for a select few. This obviously is not that. Parenting is universal. Like, every single person on this earth has a parenting story, whether it's your story as how you were parented or your story of how you are parenting your own children. Parenting is universal. And my goal is to give that universal access to good, healthy, easy parenting information to everyone out there who has access to being a parent. So I'm not trying to be exclusive. I'm not trying to be high ticket. I'm trying to be everyday person who has to work, who has bills to pay, who has things that are stressing them out. And you would just like an area of your life to be healthier and to be easier. That is what my course is priced for. So please, I hope you don't look at the price and say $47 a month. That's not a lot of money. Therefore, it must be low quality. I honestly believe if you've watched my whole webinar today, that I have given you more than $47 worth of information and guidance just in the last 30 minutes. And you can go online and you can see all my other webinars and you can know that they are worth more than $47. But I want to reach 1% of the world's parenting population and teach you guys how to parent healthier and easier. So my course is priced for everyone. And that's why you see this. You stay as long as you like, and you also still have access to me while you're in the course. That you can ask me your questions, that I can still help guide you. I'm not going to take your money and run and leave you alone to fend for yourself and to figure it all out. I'm still going to be there with you. I'm still going to be there helping you and guide you. So thank you for your time. I apologize once again for having technical issues. Um, but I do appreciate your patience and your attention, and I will see you again for next month's webinar. Thanks. Bye-bye.